reason that the wealthy state of California should be on the verge of bankruptcy. There are solutions. Let's talk about three of them. The State Bank for California, keeping the good parts and fixing the bad parts of Prop 13, and implementing fair taxes for a change so that we can create good jobs. The disparity of wealth has been growing, and middle-class taxes have been subsidizing the mega corporations and billionaires. This has caused a reduction in the revenue for California, and jobs have been slashed. Let's implement fair taxes for a change and keep and create great jobs in the things that we value: education, healthcare, and the environment. We could implement a state bank for California. North Dakota has had one since the farmers got mad at the out-of-state bankers in 1919. And now they're the only state with a budget surplus. The State Bank for California would partner with local banks and credit unions. And we could dramatically decrease our interest payments to the Wall Street banks. Then we could invest our wealth in schools, students, healthcare, businesses, and homes.
If you want to restructure the tax system and lower the marginal rates and spread out the base, that could be a very fine plan, but it's going to take a process. You're not going to get it by a little pamphlet, and you also have to deal with the fact that we got a $19 billion deficit, and you're going to have to go over each department and start cutting this thing back in the best way you can. And it isn't just snapping your fingers and saying 5 tax breaks in a pamphlet. In this time of recession, when people are financially strapped, there will be no new taxes unless you, the people, vote for them. Third, we have to downsize state government from Sacramento and return decisions and authority to the cities, to the counties, and to local schools.
We're going to have to, I think, do some targeted tax reduction to get hiring going. We're going to have to streamline regulation. Regulation, in many ways, I think, is strangling businesses more than taxes. And frankly, we're going to have to stand up and compete for those jobs. I want to put a moratorium on all new regulations.
My tax cuts will, in fact, jumpstart our economy. It'll help close the budget gap and ultimately enable us to cut income taxes across the board without miring us in even bigger debt.
We're going to have to reduce the workforce by about 40,000 people. We can do that through attrition. About 12,000 civil servants retire or move on in any given year. So 3 years, if we didn't hire another individual, we'd be down by 36,000 workers. My belief is that the #1 thing that is causing job loss from California is burdensome regulation and too complicated regulation. Bureaucracy and the tax rates are so high in this state. Both individuals and corporations pay among the highest taxes in the country.
How can we improve both our quality of life and the environment? Reduce. That's a word that's not in the vocabulary of the corporate movement that has so much influence over our lives. People can live happy and fulfilled lives using a lot fewer resources than we're using now. And the infrastructure needs to be set up in such a way that people can make individual choices that help rather than harm the environment. Let's take mass transit as just one example. We're going in the wrong direction on that. As a result of our policies of reducing taxes on the richest of the rich, individuals and corporations, we end up slashing services like buses. Let's improve mass transit so that people are able to make individual and earth-friendly choices, and so that we can meet the goals of AB 32 and address global warming.
You might know that I am one of the first candidates for governor that called for putting a 1-year moratorium on the implementation of AB 32. This is a job killer, and we are once again disadvantaging California. And we have got to stop doing things that makes it easier to do business in neighboring states. We can have a balance between high environmental standards and good regulation, but we are killing businesses.
You'll see a great plan for new energy jobs, about 500,000 for investing in 20,000 megawatts of renewable energy and efficiency retrofits. This is a very powerful proposal. I know what I'm talking about. I did it as governor. California became the world's leader in wind-generated electricity. Now it's China, and even Texas and Iowa are doing better than us. I know how to get this thing done.
I am 100% against amnesty. It's not the right thing for California. It's not the right thing for the United States of America. So what do we do? Here's the plan. First and foremost, we do have to secure the border of the United States of America. We have got to build what I call an economic fence, meaning we have got to hold employers accountable for only hiring documented workers. I say no driver's licenses, no sanctuary cities, and absolutely no amnesty, period.
I do believe in a comprehensive immigration reform, the kind that was being considered a couple of years ago by both Republicans and Democrats. And I think there has to be, under proper conditions, a path to citizenship.
The key thing that's not being said about immigration in this campaign is that immigrants are being used as a scapegoat. We've been seeing the devastating effects of the Wall Street bankers with their casino-style games that they've been playing with our mortgages and then paying themselves big bonuses with our taxpayer dollars. Meanwhile, immigrants are being blamed for a bad economy and for unemployment. Yes, immigration policy can be improved so that immigrants who are here and who are in the process of becoming citizens can complete that process for themselves and their families and to continue to be productive residents of our state. But it's time we stop using immigrants as scapegoats.
But every year there's always a group that wants to undo Prop 13. Maybe they're willing to keep the residential portion, but then they want to do what's called split roll, which basically is to make all of our businesses pay increased property taxes. And this is not a good thing for jobs.
Jarvis Organization said I'm the only candidate, Republican or Democrat, who Howard Jarvis himself would trust to protect Prop 13.
When I was governor last time, Proposition 13 came along. Yes, I opposed it, but when it got there, I rolled up my sleeves, and I not only made 13 work, but I bailed out the local government so we could protect the schools and the fire and the police, and Howard Jarvis himself said I did a hell of a job.
Prop 13 has good parts and bad parts. We can do a better job of keeping people in their homes, which is why California voted for Prop 13 in 1978, and still fix the bad parts. Most of the benefit of flattening the property tax went to corporate and commercial properties, not homeowners. The other part of Prop 13 is that it put in place a requirement that the legislature needs a 2/3 majority to increase taxes. It kept in place a simple majority to lower taxes. In boom years, the legislature was encouraged then to lower taxes, and who benefited? The mega corporations and billionaires. Then in lean years, we can't get it back. What suffers? California's schools, health care, environment, job opportunities, and resources for young people, for seniors, and for the middle class. I've heard Jerry Brown say, I've lived with Prop 13 before, I can live with it again. And my question is, what about the rest of us?
It costs about $50,000 a year to house a prisoner in California, twice the national average. The biggest difference is in health care. On average, it costs about $12,000 per prisoner in California for health care. But we do have a prison overcrowding problem. So the first thing I think we need to do is we need to send prisoners to neighboring states who have capacity in their prisons to take our prisoners. Michigan, Nevada, several others have the capacity to take prisoners.
And we've done some of this, we need to do more. But it turns out up until 3 years ago, we couldn't do this because you had to ask permission of the prisoners to be moved out of state. But now you don't, that's the good news. So we need to accelerate that. And then I am not adverse to privatizing of prisons. I'd like to start slowly, make sure we understand what we have in front of us. I am not for early release of prisoners into our community to reduce overcrowding, and I am not for changing sentencing guidelines.
Well, you got 160,000 people locked up. 120,000 leave every year. So every month, 10,000 people walk out the door and 10,000 people walk in. It is the best managed hotel system in the world. There is never a vacant bed, or a vacant cell, I should say. I believe that work in prison, more education, more drug treatment, re-entry, I think we can restructure the way the criminal justice and crime control and prison and incarceration and sanction system work. And I think we can save money, and I think we can improve public safety.
The United States has the highest rate of incarceration in the world. California in recent decades has built dozens of new prisons and only a couple of new universities. California is imprisoning people because of the 3 strikes law, drug offenses, and technical parole violations, causing us to spend billions of dollars on the prison industrial complex, which is a source of sweetheart deals and cheap labor. There are tried and true ways to reduce the human and economic costs of incarceration, education, correctional methods, drug rehabilitation, and prevention. These are ways that are much less expensive, and they'll keep us safer.
Every year we get more marijuana. And every year we find more guys with AK-47s coming out of Mexico, going into the forest out there and growing more and more. And dangerous, losing control.
It's time to get mature about marijuana and hemp. Hemp is easy to grow and sustainable, and it has many uses, like making paper. It could be part of the solution to some of our environmental problems, like deforestation, which affects not only the beauty of California, but the quality of our air. We need to have a marijuana policy that makes sense. Right now, we're using tax dollars to arrest and imprison people on marijuana offenses. For less than the cost of sending a person to prison for a year, we could send a person to college. The Green Party endorses a yes vote on Proposition 19. Let's grow up and let California lead the way.